Okay, here's the deal. World of Warcraft is doing exactly what I wanted it to. I am loving the new patch. Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and 11.1 UndermineD,
with a D.
thank you Ian, is out, and while Blizzard is already looking ahead to 11.1.5 Nightfall, let's take a moment in time to just take a step back and talk about what came out with 11.1. I think this patch does a lot right, a couple things wrong, and highlights one of WoW's weakest issues. Let's start off with, in my opinion, one of the best moments and best elements to this patch, and that is the story. Full spoilers. It was split into two different chunks. You had chapters 1 through 4 with the actual patch's release itself, and then with the launch of Season 2, we had the final two chapters alongside the release of the raid. The final part of that questline being tied to completing the raid, or namely just killing Gallywix. The story of 11.1 is a full, complete narrative. It has a comprehensible and understandable and engaging beginning, middle, and end. And for the most part, I think it is well paced. Perhaps a little bit too fast in places, but nothing overly egregious in my eyes. 11.1 continues the emotional, well, I don't even know if emotional is the correct word, just the overall storytelling style from the War Within 11.0. And I kind of just classify that as like good storytelling. Nothing overly mind-blowing, anything like that, but compared to a lot of what we've had in the past with World of Warcraft, it's some of the best we've had. But whereas I really enjoyed 11.0, but thought it was lacking in terms of big, bombastic, fist-pumping, hell-yeah moments, UndermineD gets rather dark. And if they continue on this trend, I think they're bringing the cool back in World of Warcraft, which is the biggest element to the storytelling I thought they had to do, and I wasn't sure they were going to accomplish it this soon with a goblin-themed patch, but I'm a believer. Again, nothing overly spectacular or just magnificent or anything like that, just really good quality storytelling punctuated with really poignant moments that I thought WoW needed more of. Like, UndermineD starts, the moment you log in to do the story, to begin the story, you get a brief cutscene of Gallywix ordering one of his henchmen to evaporate another goblin. It's a really good cutscene, and then later on, you meet up with another character who finds out their entire crew got axed by Gallywix because someone ratted her and her crew out, and then after the time gate, and you start the portion of the story that begins with the launch of Season 2, it begins immediately with another character death, a semi-important one for the story being Renzik, and the dude just gets sniped and turned into a giant pile of ash. These are moments that are tone setters in my opinion. And for the last good while, especially with expansions like Dragonflight, the perception was the storytelling in WoW was way too cutesy, way too soft and lighthearted. Going into UndermineD, I expected it to be more silly and comedic because it's the goblins, but while you still had those elements to it, you take the style and quality storytelling from 11.0, and like I said before, you punctuate that with moments like this, it makes it more memorable and impactful and just engaging. And to me, it feels as if the storytelling quality in World of Warcraft is not just getting better, it's getting better fast. When I first came back to World of Warcraft back in November, one of the biggest things I talked about that I needed to see out of Blizzard was that, okay, I'm enjoying 11.0, but you need to continue delivering this level of quality. Not just in terms of the gameplay, not just in terms of environmental design, but also the story. You need to be consistent in this regard, and 11.1 is showing me that consistency. And not just consistency, but also getting better. I view this to be an excellent trend in World of Warcraft. I actually cared a little bit, at least, about the goblin characters in 11.1. I cared about the various cartels, and I thought they were able to successfully blend the cool, funny, wacky elements of goblin society alongside actually good storytelling. Normally in the past with World of Warcraft, you kind of got one or the other, and WoW historically has never been the best when it comes to actually good emotional storytelling. Or just good storytelling in general. And I talked about this last week with my first impressions for 11.1, but I think 11.1 does a great job of making it not feel like a filler patch because it isn't. Going into 11.1, when they announced it was UndermineD, when they announced we were going to the capital city of the goblins, we knew there would be some old god stuff and all that, right? But it did kind of feel as if, okay, anime filler arc incoming, let's have some comedic relief. No, there's some big lore revelations and bombs and plot developments that happen in 11.1. 11.1, and they're so good in my opinion. Because not only is the storytelling with the goblins fun and engaging in my opinion, but what they're doing is teasing future developments, but not just saying, oh, we'll do something really cool down the line. No, they're doing cool stuff now to tease cool stuff in the future. Having, I believe his name is Phase Lord Azim, one of these ethereal guys, steal the Dark Heart from Galliwex, we all believe, or at least in the moment we were led to believe, thanks Ilaria, that the ethereals are working for Xal'atath because, well, the Void. It was a cool moment when it happened, but with the next reset and with the new finale for the storyline, we learn that, oh, the ethereals, they're not working for Xal'atath, or at least those ethereals weren't. There's another faction at play here. And I've been seeing this take going around Twitter a little bit, and that is that Xal'atath is a bit of a breath of fresh air because she is this, like, villain archetype that is supposed to be a schemer, but not every plan goes according to plan. We see her trip up and fail quite a bit lately, but still. So while we know she at least has a plan, it's not necessarily infallible. And the whole stuff with the ethereals I found to be genuinely compelling, especially with this build-up going into 11.15 with Nightfall, and then eventually 11.2, and then especially with the next expansion, Midnight, which is being advertised back at BlizzCon as like the ultimate battle between Light and Void. And in my opinion, they're putting not just the pieces of the game on the board, but they're actively moving them around and fleshing that story out. So not only did I have a compelling story with the goblins, and kind of finalizing a storyline that for me began all the way back in Cataclysm when I started the game and did a goblin character for the first time, or at least as one of my first characters. I finally got a bow for that storyline. They're actively developing in interesting and engaging ways the main antagonist Xal'atath, but also putting a whole new faction on the board that are intriguing, the ethereals. They're just cool. And it's one of the things I've really grown to appreciate about the War Within. It's Blizzard showing their new storytelling chops, but also utilizing characters, factions, and aesthetics that are traditionally associated with World of Warcraft. Ethereals, Burning Crusade. Ilaria, she comes from Warcraft frickin' 2. I think Gazlowe was in Warcraft 3 as well. Light versus Dark, I mean, come on. Dwarves and Titans, like, this is the exact direction I hoped they would take. And if you had asked me even a few years ago, I would never have imagined World of Warcraft could have improved this much in such a short period of time. And their content cadence, their release schedule, it's like, I talked about this in one of the comments in one of my videos. It's like, I remember the days where we had massive content droughts. I remember the drought between Siege of Orgrimmar and the next expansion, and then the next expansion being Warlords of frickin' Draenor, of all things, which was notoriously content light, outside of raiding. And then, like, they released the patch, the next week they released Season 2, with the finale to the story. I didn't even particularly mind, by the way, the time gating for the story this go around. And then, like, a day afterwards, they announced a lot of the content for 11.15, which, if it's done well, sounds genuinely compelling. Dastardly duos. Being able to fight, like, 2 boss fights from the past of World of Warcraft at the same time and going for a high score for bragging rights. The return of horrific visions. From the sounds of it essentially transforming Ash-Kahet and Howlfall into a, like, Thunder Isle-like experience. We'll have to wait to see what the execution is like for all these things. But, like, it feels lately with World of Warcraft, there's something to look forward to all the time. And while launch day for 11.1 was, at least for me, plagued with disconnects and, like, lag and all that, it is a patch release for World of Warcraft. I've kind of come to expect that, but still, for the most part, I am genuinely really content with World of Warcraft right now. I think it is massively course-corrected, and I am looking forward to what comes down the line for it. And there's still so much to this patch I haven't even talked about yet. Let's get into it. I've tried to do the raid, and it's a really cool raid, and the music is S tier. But right before you actually unlock the raid, you actually fight Nikki, who's the character that, by order of Galliwex, kills Renzik the Shiv. I saw they attempted to give her a couple of mechanics in the fight, but it's an overworld fight in World of Warcraft. She rolls over so quickly, and they try and build up this character so that when you have her, you know, her boss fight in the overworld, it's supposed to be really satisfying in this big climactic moment, but because she's tuned so, like, low, she rolls over so quickly, and you don't get a satisfying moment with her. It's what I've talked about before in regard to the overall tuning of leveling and questing different content in World of Warcraft. You don't need to make crap to be like mythic quality in terms of difficulty, but like when you're trying to build up a fight like this, Nikki the Fixer, and you have the reward for the quest being her rifle that she used to kill a big named character for the patch, you want that fight to be at least remotely memorable and not just something so piss easy you could take your full hand, slam it on the keyboard, and generally speaking that boss would still die. And the liberation of UndermineD raid is really cool. You have a cyborg gorilla versus a robotic T-Rex fight, another fight against a DJ that uses sound as a weapon and as a shield. The environment is just the perfect distillation of goblin aesthetics. And the music is great. The music in The War Within has been really good, but especially in UndermineD. But funnily enough, I haven't actually completed the story, because one of the main quests that you have to do is actually kill Gallywix in the raid. The story mode version of that fight isn't available yet, so I'm like, okay, I'll hop in normal mode. It's normal, it can't be that hard. And while I haven't ever really raided in World of Warcraft, so it was a little bit of a learning curve for me, I grossly underestimated how bad people are at this game. And you want to know the funny thing? I tried pugging on stream normal modes. We couldn't get one boss killed. Granted, I was just joining random groups, but still. And we tried 2 different fights, and I tried tried 2 different groups. We couldn't kill Rick Reverb, who was the DJ fight. We couldn't kill the penultimate boss, who was a 2-headed ogre guy, called Muggsy. Great name, by the way. Now, that was day 1, so people were probably a bit underleveled, undergeared. Yeah, it's like, whatever. But you have that age-old problem I always hear about for World of Warcraft, and finally experienced it for myself, where when you die and when you wipe, people just leave instead of trying to actually get better and go again. Ugh. So I left after both groups failed. Next day I tried to get some more gear through things like delves and all that. Tried to go back in, and I just could not get accepted into any group. And I tried to join quite a few of them. Just wasn't happening. Yeah, the pugging experience in World of Warcraft leaves a lot to be desired, let's say. I'm going to continue to try every now and then. I've gotten some decent gear at this point, but still. I think the worst part was I decided to actually do the LFR wing that's available, which is just 2 fights. The King Kong vs. Godzilla boss fight, but also Rick Reverb, and it was smooth as butter. And like, yeah, I get it. LFR is not particularly difficult, but it wasn't just the fact that it was tuned to be easier. People were actually doing the mechanics in LFR, as opposed to my normal mode attempts, where there was no communication, or at least like minimal communication at that, and a lot of people just couldn't get their heads around the mechanics. Granted, I'm not like immune here, I wasn't playing that good either. I eventually did kind of learn most of the mechanics though. I just found it really funny that the LFR group I had, myself and everyone else actually did the mechanics correctly like the first try, whereas in the normal mode runs, no one could do any of the mechanics mostly correctly. My groups in normal mode either always died to Muggsy's Earth Jails, or in Rick Reverb, people just did not stand on the pads that launch you in the air. Granted, I died a couple of times because I could not find those things for the life of me. At least the one that was, clearly marked. I might just be blind, who knows. But still, I like the fact the raid is being used to further the storytelling. WoW has done this before a lot. Nothing particularly new. I still like it though. But I then went and watched Noble react to, well, the final cutscenes that were available, and then I watched them on Wowhead myself. Yeah, the Gallywix death after the boss fight's a little bit quick, but like, it's fitting for a character like him, and it's nice to have a sense of finality with a storyline in World of Warcraft like this. UndermineD was a complete beginning, middle, and an end, and while it did have elements that were foreshadowing or more designed around the whole light versus void element with things like the Ethereals, the Darkons, Altath, and all that, the actual stuff in regards to UndermineD, that had a beginning, a middle, and an end here. It was developed beforehand with 11.0 and then fully fleshed out with 11.1 and had a satisfying conclusion. I quite enjoy that, and I'm glad WoW can do storytelling like that. And then the tease, who I believe is Phase Lord Azim, looking over a void corrupted world, shattered, with like this black hole in the middle of it, holding the Dark Heart. I imagine that's Koresh. It could just be insert void world here. It's probably Koresh, which is the homeworld of the Ethereals. I don't think we'll go there until midnight itself, but it's a really cool scene, and again, This is a compelling way to tease the future, in my opinion. Especially if we're not going to go to Koresh until midnight, because I still think 11.2 is going to be the root lands. If Koresh itself is not till midnight, they're going to do more and more foreshadowing and development for it, so when we eventually get there, ideally, it'll be able to build off all this development and teasing we've had up to now. It's incredible what actually having a long-term vision and goal for World of Warcraft can manage to accomplish. Now let's talk about the actual content in 11.1. I love Drive. I think it's one of the best systems they've ever implemented into World of Warcraft. It's super fun. I love the races. I hope they do more of them. I think scrap and shipping and handling, like I've talked about before, feel like boring, meaningless fluff, filler content. Maybe it's for some people, not particularly for me. It's like whatever. I love the delves. I love delves with 11.0, and I love all the changes they've made to delves with 11.1. I love Tank Brand Bronzebeard. I've managed to even clear tier 11 delves with Tank Brand Bronzebeard. I play Red Paladin, so I was able to off-heal him as well, and when you do heal him, he gains a massive buff, so he can pump out a lot of damage even as a tank. I fully recommend trying out Tank Brand Bronzebeard. It's really comfy, it's really fun. I love the new variants for a lot of the delves as well. I love the new curios, they're quite fun, they're quite cool. I'm working on getting even more gear, one for the raid, but also, because I want to do the new big delve boss fight. I think his name's called like the Underpin or something. I put a few attempts into him and got rather deep. He's really dang cool. I love how you're in this like coliseum with a crowd watching you try and smack down this guy, and figuring out you can actually kick the bombs on the floor back at his like goons to blow them up to clear out the board so they don't spam line AoEs at you was a really cool moment. And yeah, so far I've been really enjoying Undermine. I've been really enjoying 11.1. I think it's a great step in the right direction for not only World of Warcraft but also the War Within. I haven't been able to try out everything yet, but I am really enjoying the game right now. And with the way things sound, at least 11.15, I'm probably going to enjoy that as well. I mean, Horrific Visions were one of my favorite pieces of content they've ever added to World of Warcraft, only let down by the systems of Battle for Azeroth. We don't have that here in the War Within, so I'm looking forward to it immensely. I think WoW needs to continue getting better the way it has been with the War Within. I'm really satisfied, and I'm optimistic for the state of the game and for its future. Yeah, thumbs up for me. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Leave a comment down below for your thoughts, your opinions on 11.1 Undermined with a D. What has been your favorite moment in the story, or just your favorite element about 11.1, and what do you hope they change or do in the future? I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspective. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.